Hi everyone, my name is Katrina.
I'm Samantha.
My name is Rachel.
And today we'll be presenting on hypertension and the holidays. So first off, we want to give an introduction as to what blood pressure is. So blood pressure measures the force of blood pushing against the artery walls. So it has a top and a bottom number in a form of a fraction. And the top number is the systolic pressure, which measures the pressure inside your artery when your heart contracts and pumps blood throughout the body. On the bottom is the diastolic number, which is the pressure inside the artery when the heart is at rest and filling with blood. The normal blood pressure is around 120 over 80 milligrams per mercury. We also want to go over what hypertension is. So hypertension is when your blood pressure is consistently too high, and we'll go over the numbers in a bit. But hypertension is associated with a lot of risks. Some of these risks include stroke, heart failure, aneurysms, mild cognitive impairment, and others. Hypertension is also known as a silent killer because you really can't see the physical symptoms of hypertension. There are a lot of aspects that cause hypertension, including prior health conditions, lifestyle, and family history that could increase your risk of developing hypertension. Having high blood pressure and diabetes can also increase the risk of developing hypertension.
Hi everyone. So like Katrina said, there is levels to hypertension, and so I'll be going over that. Hypertension is defined as your blood pressure that is consistently higher than 130 to 80 millimeters mercury. It's important to note that your blood pressure can actually change throughout the day depending on small stressors that you have during the day or things like caffeine. So it's really important to recognize that if it's a chronic thing and it's happening every day in which it's over or higher than 130 over 80, that's when we should start to maybe maintain it more and look out for that more. So hypertension again is that stage, and then there's things to look out for too, like hypertensive crisis, in which you can call a doctor immediately because that can lead to things like heart attack and stroke, which Rachel will be talking about, and Katrina.
Yes, so I'll start with knowing the signs of heart attack. Again, it's super important to know the signs just in case you're having a hypertensive crisis. So we'll be going over heart attack first. And it's important to note that women and men experience heart attack differently. So it's important to know the signs experienced by men and women respectively. So in women, some symptoms include jaw pain, shortness of breath, chest discomfort or tightness, backache, extreme fatigue and nausea. And in men, they experience sweating, chest pain or lightness, heartburn, and nausea or vomiting.
So now I'll be going over the different signs of a stroke. So we have a little cute acronym here called FAST, so face, arms, speech, and time. So when you see one side of the face is drooping or weakness in the arms or speech difficulty, these are all signs of a stroke. And when you see these occur in any particular order, it's important to act immediately and call 911.
So you may be asking, why should we care about hypertension? Well, like Katrina said, it is a silent killer and it may cause more problems for our health. So here are just some statistics about how hypertension affects the Filipinx community respectively. And so that's why we really wanted to talk about it today, because we want to make sure our community is healthy and it's safe. And the first statistic is that heart disease accounted for 33% of all deaths for Filipino-Americans.
And about 1 out of 5 Filipinos have prehypertension, and that just means that they are at risk of developing high blood pressure. And 3 out of 5 Filipinos do have hypertension.
Only 1 out of 6 hypertensive Filipinos have their blood pressure under control in a study. And in the same research study, Filipinos ranked among the lowest in adherence to antihypertensive medication when compared to other groups.
Yeah, so there are many individual factors that contribute to high blood pressure and hypertension. So those examples could be being obese or overweight, lack of physical activity, too much salt in your food or in your diet, drinking too much alcohol, stress, and it's important to know with stress that a 1 day stress thing won't necessarily do much. Again, your blood pressure can fluctuate throughout the day, but if it's chronic stress, then that's when it can become worrisome. Family history of hypertension and high blood pressure, age, sex, race, and ethnicity. And then on the next slide, it's also really important to note that hypertension and high blood pressure can be caused by societal problems like cost of fresh groceries and fresh produce like fruits and vegetables. Um, and of course, now that could be exacerbated if you're afraid to go to the grocery store for groceries because of COVID-19. Access to healthcare, so being insured, is unfortunately something that we have to worry about here in the United States. Chronic stress from housing problems, COVID-19, any work stress that you may have, etc. So unfortunately, these are external things that some may not be able to control, which is not anyone's fault. So we can try to work individually to maintain our blood pressure. So an example of ways to maintain your blood pressure during Thanksgiving or during the holidays in general are these things. So you can take a walk with family and friends. You can do it before you eat, maybe after you eat, anytime you want, honestly. And remember to bring out your mask if you do go outside. Be sure to regularly take all your medications that you have. I know that sometimes people are cooking and you don't recognize, or like cleaning the house and you don't recognize that it's time to take your medication. So a really good way of doing this is to set a timer on your phone or on your laptop, computer, or maybe put your medication on the table where you eat so that you can see it and it's an easy access. You can take some time at night to do breathing exercises or meditation. We understand that sometimes it's stressful in the holidays because you're doing all these things like cooking and cleaning, inviting family over and stuff like that. So an example of a breathing exercise you can do is the 4-7-8, which is where you breathe in for 7 seconds and then you breathe out for 8 seconds. And then you can do this 4 times repeatedly.
So some more ways to maintain your blood pressure during Thanksgiving. One way is to avoid any processed foods because they do contain excess salt. Such foods include Spam, canned foods, microwavable foods, or chips. And as Sam mentioned earlier, it's understandable that processed foods are more on the affordable side. So just be mindful of the sodium levels and just try to limit the intake of it. Also, try not to add extra salt on your meals or avoid overeating at holiday parties. I personally struggle with that big time. But one thing is to eat a high protein snack beforehand because they do serve as a long term source of energy. And we also included alcohol intake because I know a lot of us do like to have a little bit of alcohol during the holidays. It's advised that women of all ages and men 65 years or older have no more than 1 drink per day, and men 65 years or younger should have no more than 2 drinks per day. And down below is just an example of what a standard drink should look like.
So I want to pose a question to anyone who's watching and who might want to answer. What foods do you like to eat during the holidays? And I'll wait a couple seconds if anyone wants to post on the chat. Personally, some of my favorite foods are turkey. I love apple cider. I love mashed potatoes. I also love having Filipino food for the holidays, like adobo. We like to have pancit to celebrate long life. And we see the comments in the chat. We see that Sean enjoys mac and cheese. Alan enjoys potatoes, rayan likes lumpia. So those are definitely some great options. So we kind of want to talk about some foods you could eat during the holidays that might decrease your blood pressure. So foods that act as a natural muscle relaxants, which help dilate blood vessels to reduce hypertension, include garlic, cinnamon, cayenne pepper, pomegranates, turmeric, and foods with a lot of potassium, which can coact the reactions with salt, are lentils, leafy greens, kale, spinach, kiwis, quinoa, and bananas. We also wanted to provide some healthy substitutes for the holidays because we all seem to love to eat during the holidays. It's important not to limit yourself, but we just wanted to give some healthy substitutes. So instead of full fat dips, you could go for yogurt dips because they have less fat. Instead of store-bought stuffing, you could have homemade stuffing because you can control the amount of sodium. Instead of candied yams, you could have roasted sweet potatoes. And instead of dark meat, you could have white meat.
Yeah, and here are more healthy substitutes for the holidays. Instead of traditional gravy, you can go for a low-fat gravy, which we have a recipe of right there. Instead of eggnog, which is a classic holiday drink, you can substitute it for apple cider, which just has fewer fat. And then instead of mashed potatoes, you can do mashed cauliflower. Now, personally for me, I love mashed potatoes in the holidays, so I don't think I can like personally do this, but a really great substitute is to just put less cheese in the mashed potatoes or less sour cream than usual, which is what my family does. So it's a really good alternative as well. On the next slide, we have some Filipino food substitutes. So instead of fried lumpia, you can do lumpiang sariwa. And so you can put in a lot more vegetables in there and then just fewer oil when you fry it if you do fry it. Instead of ampalaya with fried pork, you can try it with lean meat. And instead of frying it, you can saute it and you can simmer it instead. Or if you do fry it, again, just less oil. Instead of halo-halo, you can do cantaloupe crush, or maybe you just put a little bit more ice and less of like the beans and the nata de coco and all of that stuff. For kare-kare, you can do a full switch to a vegetable kare-kare, or you can just put less like oxtail or whatever meat you put and put more like bok choy and all of that stuff. You can also choose like a peanut butter that's less fatty. And instead of white rice, you can also do brown rice, or just put a smaller portion of white rice and enjoy the rest of the food. But yeah.
Thanks, Sam, for listing all those foods. Now I'm getting a little bit hungry. But so I know that not many of us do have hypertension, but we have family members that may. So we made a little list of things that you can do to help support your family members with hypertension. You could cook healthy recipes together. You could help remind them about their medications if they'd like you to. You could help book appointments with their providers. You could keep them accountable with their physical activity by offering to walk or exercise with them. And if they smoke, you could try to offer to help them find a way to limit or possibly quit. And it's also good to know the warning signs of a stroke or heart attack, which we covered earlier in the presentation.
Thank you everyone for tuning in this Saturday. Here are some resources. And again, we just wanted to remind everyone that you shouldn't deprive yourself from eating this holiday if that's something that you love and you feel happy to do. But again, it is just about your maintenance and portion sizes. So yeah, thank you everyone on behalf of the Public Health Committee.